A lot of us, we find ourselves in information gathering sessions, but we might not be as effective as we'd like to be because we simply don't have any tools or strategies to use while we're in an information gathering session. That is what the 3-second look is all about. It helps you get to the truth and uncover things that might not necessarily otherwise be revealed during an information gathering session. The way my grandmother used to use it is like this, and you already use this if you're a grandparent. If you're a parent and you're experienced, you might have caught on to this already. But if you have not yet become a parent, unless you've learned this, you probably aren't using this. Let's say that I came in a few hours late on a Friday night. The following Saturday morning, if my grandmother wanted to find out what happened on Friday night, she never would have done this. And this is the common mistake that many of us make. We ask a question, get an answer, ask a question, get an answer. She never would have said something along these lines. Daniel, you came in a few hours late last night, is that right? Yeah, Graham. Where were you? At a friend's house. Were their parents home? Oh, yeah. Well, what happened? I just lost track of time. I'm really sorry. Was there any monkey business going on, like smoking or drinking? Of course not. All right. See, that never would have happened. She never just asked a question, got an answer, asked another, got an answer, because she knew how to use the 3-second look effortlessly. She was more apt to do it this way. She would have said to me, Daniel, where were you last night? And I would have said, I was at a friend's house. And the 3-second look is, remember, you stare at somebody, make eye contact, direct eye contact, head forward without blinking and without nodding either way, and you simply stare at them for 3 whole seconds. So she would have said to me, Daniel, what happened to you last night? Why did you come in late? And I would have said, I was just over at a friend's house, I just lost track of time. And she would have done this. And then I would have said, And we stayed up all night smoking cigarettes with girls. That's what we tend to do, right? Especially as kids. When we have one of those master interrogators, they will stare at us, they will make that eye contact, we might answer their question, but if we have something to hide, it comes out because that's what happens to the average human being when faced with a 3-second look. Having said that now that you are aware of the 3-second look, if you are on the receiving end of an information gathering session, if someone is trying to gather information from you, now that you know the strategy, you'll be much more likely to endure it and not fall victim to someone else giving you the 3-second look. So remember the next time you are in an information gathering session, if you have to get to the bottom of something, or if you just really want to get to the truth of whatever it is that you're talking about, when someone answers a question, don't immediately respond. Don't immediately pick up right where they left off. Just let it be for a moment. Give a few seconds of just calm before you respond to that person, and watch what starts flying out of people's mouths when they're faced with just a few moments of silence. That is the 3-second look.
The 3-second look.
Another body language technique I wanted to talk about this week has to do with head tilts.
Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. The forward head tilt.
Many of us struggle being perceived as powerful, confident, and professional in the workplace. Women tend to struggle with this issue more than men do in terms of body language messages that they're sending off, because women by nature tend to use more passive body language gestures. Now, this isn't just for women. Many of us men also have many passive body language gestures that we incorporate into our communication repertoire. For example, I tend to tilt my head a lot to the side because by nature I am more of a passive communicator. However, tilting your head to the side does show, it sends a clear signal of, I am passive right now. So you want to be careful of that if you are trying to build an image of strength and power and confidence and professionalism, and you do not want to be perceived as being passive in any way whatsoever. Head tilts to the side, by the way, tend to be a distinctly feminine communication gesture. It's just the way it is. The average man, you will not find him tilting his head to the side while he's having a day-to-day conversation. The average woman, however, will, because it tends to signal, I'm listening to you and I'm understanding. That is not how a man reads it, and that is not the message a man tends to send, because that's not what we tend to be thinking. When we listen to people, we tend not to think, I'm listening to you, I'm listening to you, I'm understanding the message. We tend to be thinking about our response, thinking about what I'm going to tell you when you're done, thinking about how to help you with this challenge. But for whatever the reason, remember that if you are trying to send an assertive message, for example, today we're going to be talking also about spotlight questions. Spotlight questions begin with, are you trying to? And if somebody is engaging in passive-aggressive communication with you and you are going to respond using a spotlight question, watch the difference in the two messages that I'm about to send. Charlie, are you trying to insult me? And Charlie, are you trying to insult me? One of them, when I say, are you trying to insult me, is an assertive message. If I use the same words and tone, are you trying to insult me, is a passive message. Because remember, over half the message that we are sending whenever we're speaking face to face is visual. Over half the message is body language. So regardless of what our words and tone are, if that head tilts to the side while you're speaking, the recipients are going to perceive you as being more passive. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not. If you are trying to stay away from sending any passive messages, watch your head tilts, especially if you are by nature a more passive person and you have to engage in assertive, strong communication, for example, dealing with difficult people or proving yourself at work. You may by nature tend to tilt your head to the side, and it's something you really need to stop doing if you want to eliminate sending a passive message. Simple.
Bum 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 bum. The forward head tilt.
All right, now let's get on to our danger phrases. This week, I'm going to give you 2 danger phrases and power phrases for home and 2 danger phrases and power phrases for work.
Stop using danger phrases. We're gonna give you the power.
And the danger phrases that I'm going to give you first are going to be the ones that I want you to eliminate using at home. Danger phrase number 1. Before I even tell you what this danger phrase is, what do you think the number 1 danger phrase is that women, especially, should eliminate from their verbal repertoire completely? This is a delete phrase. What is the phrase that women use? They tend to use it more with men when the men are in trouble. For example, a man comes home, let's say. If you're married or if you have been in a long-term relationship, you know that sometimes you come home and you're minding your own business and there's your spouse. It could be a man, it could be a woman. What are those 4 words that people tend to say at the beginning of difficult conversations? We need to talk. Don't ever say that again. Remember, eliminate. We need to talk. You should be keeping a danger phrase list. That should be at the top of it. Keep that phrase at the top of your danger phrase list until it is eliminated from your verbal repertoire. So I always provide flashcards with these lessons. Take the flashcard for this week. At the very first danger phrase on it says, we need to talk. Carry it around with you. Put it in your cubicle at work. Put it in front of you when you talk on the phone. Carry it in your pocket so that you eliminate that phrase. And because we have given a power phrase instead, the next time you are about to say we need to talk, you'll be more likely to shift out of that reaction mode and switch into the response mode and use this power phrase. I need your help. Aha! The next time you are about to say to somebody, hey, we need to talk, instead watch the difference that it makes when you say to them, for example, you use their name, and you might say, Charlie, I need your help. Or if you're talking to a woman, Mary, I need your help. Now, watch, by the way, how I specifically used a head tilt when I said that, and you might want to do that as well. If you tend to be perceived as aggressive, as intimidating, if you tend to hear people say that to you, if they say to you, you can be a little intimidating, or if you feel that, start tilting your head to the side a little bit, especially when you deliver lead-in lines for difficult conversations. Difficult conversation lead-in line is something such as, I need your help, not we need to talk. The lead-in line sets up the conversation. And so when you say to the average person, I need your help, psychologically, most of us feel as if, wow, somebody's finally asking me for my help. I mean, how many of you watching this really feel, honestly can say, yes, my talents and gifts are utilized to the max, both at work and at home. I'm totally using all of the skills and gifts that I have to give the world. You know, that doesn't happen. So when we are genuinely asked for help, that phrase, I need your help, it triggers something in most of us where we think, oh, okay, good, I want to help. Most of us want to help. Now, of course, if we all know somebody in our lives that is constantly asking us for a favor, that's different. Try to purge phrases such as, hey, can I ask a favor of you? Hey, can I ask a huge favor? Because the more we say that, the more we tend to be labeled as needy. But when you choose your lead-in lines wisely and you do your cost-benefit analysis and you recognize this is a difficult conversation, I'm going to set it up the right way, and I'm going to do it using a lead-in line such as, I need your help, rather than we need to talk, you will find huge differences in the results that you're going to get. Now, again, let's say that we need to talk because you aren't, I've asked you to do the dishes every day this week. You keep saying that you're going to, and you never have. When I say to you, I need your help, the help might be, I need you to start doing what you say you're going to do. But that's coming later. What we first need to do is set up the conversation. So eliminate we need to talk, danger phrase, and replace it with I need your help. The second danger phrase that I'm going to give you for home is, what's wrong with you? So many of us have said that, and we've all had people say that to us. What's wrong with you? And of course we tend to say it when somebody's emotionally out of control. If we want to aggravate somebody and make them feel even worse, then what's wrong with you is a perfect phrase. However, if our intention is to be an effective communicator and really get somebody unstuck, help them through whatever problem they're facing right now, an effective phrase to do that will never be, what's wrong with you? What's your defect? What's your damage? Nobody wants to tell you that there is something wrong with them. Or, sometimes we might say very genuinely, somebody might appear to be upset at work or at home, and we'll come up to them and say something such as, what's wrong? And most people want to say, nothing, because most people do not want to acknowledge that there's something wrong with them, that there's something wrong in their lives, that they have a problem. So instead, switch over to the response mode and use the power phrase, what's bothering you, or what's troubling you. Something like that actually gets a response. When we stop and think about it, we know that if you're emotionally out of control, if you're exhibiting signs of distress, it's because something's bothering you, or you wouldn't be exhibiting those signs. You'd be giving love and receiving love, right? But if you're seeing that someone is not doing that at the moment, and your intention is, I want to help you get unstuck and get through this, and I want to help you through this problem, ask them instead, what's bothering you, or what's troubling you? And watch the difference in the results that you'll get. People actually might pause a moment and tell you. Or if they don't, if they say something such as, nothing, then simply say to them something along the lines of, all right, well, if you ever do want to talk about anything, just realize my door is always open and I'm always here for you. Or something to that effect, something to the effect of, all right, well, if there ever is anything that you want to talk about, when you're ready, I'm here for you. Watch how people tend to come to you then and say, hey, do you have a moment? Because you made yourself available as a communicator and didn't start off by insinuating that there was a defect or problem with that other person. So those are your two danger phrases for home. We need to talk and what's wrong with you. The two power phrases that you're going to use to replace those are, I need your help and what's bothering you. So, we need to talk. I need your help. What's wrong with you? What's bothering you? Your danger phrases for work this week are, do you want or do you need, and no problem or not a problem. Let's start with do you want or do you need. Sometimes we'll experience this one at the convenience store. We'll buy a few items, and the clerk, who obviously doesn't want to be there, will say to us something along the lines of, do you want a bag with that, or do you need a bag? And it's suddenly as if we are imposing upon them because it's, something we need or something we want, when the truth of the matter is it's something we have already paid for. It's just a matter of whether or not we like it. And when we're speaking in a professional manner to our customers, one thing we never want to say is, do you want or do you need? It's about what they would like, what would please them, what would give them pleasure. So the next time you're about to say something along the lines of, do you want or do you need? Remember, scratch those words and replace them with, would you like? And the other danger phrase for work for the week is no problem or not a problem. We live in a very relaxed society when it comes to communication, but a lot of us inadvertently will disrespect the person to whom we are speaking by, when being thanked, responding with a no problem or not a problem. If I'm taking the time to thank you for something, and I am genuinely thanking you for your participation, and your response to me is no problem or not a problem, that implies that there was probably a problem with them doing it to begin with. And I wasn't insinuating that there was a problem to begin with if I'm thanking you for something. And the response that I would expect is, you're welcome. It sounds simple, but keep an ear out and listen to how many people at work, even to customers, say things like, not a problem, no problem. And of course, that's fine at home in a casual environment. But if I'm in a professional environment trying to honor my employers, my coworkers, my customers, I do not want to use phrases that would insinuate that whatever I did for them had a problem attached to it whatsoever in any way. And to avoid doing that, I simply use the phrase, simple to use, but rarely used, you're welcome. So remember, there's a big difference between, do you want me to send that out today for you? And would you like that report sent out today for you? Very different, right? And remember the difference between no problem and you're welcome. Big difference. So now you have your danger phrases for work, pin them up, put them around, scratch the danger phrases from your verbal repertoire, and use the power phrases that will help you project the professional, polished image you deserve.
Stop using danger phrases. We're gonna give you the power.
And now we're going to go to our dealing with difficult people tactics of the week. Ha! We're going to start off with a spotlight question.
The spotlight question reveals intention.
I know so many of you watching this right now will be able to use the spotlight question within the next 5 days. So before we get to our next lesson, I know that you're going to be able to use a spotlight question. Because we all deal with passive-aggressive people. You know, passive-aggressive and aggressive are different in this sense. We're all either born passive or aggressive. Just like dogs. You know, I have 2 dogs, and one of them is more of an aggressive dog by nature, one of them is more of a passive dog by nature. And if you have dogs, you know what I mean. Aggressive dogs by nature tend to tilt their heads forward a lot, like aggressive people, and passive dogs by nature tend to tilt their heads to the side a lot, just like passive people. And we're all either born more aggressive or passive by nature. Nobody is born assertive by nature. It doesn't happen. And passive-aggressive, what that really means is it's not, in the middle between passive and aggressive. Passive-aggressive means I'm going to do aggressive things. I'm going to punish you. I'm just not going to be upfront about it. Like I might be nice to your face at work, but then I'm going to go slash your tires in the parking lot. Or a lot of us have done this. You might have a friend at work who's done this, or maybe you have done this, where like I might see somebody on the phone, I might see Mary on the phone with Mr. Jones, and I can tell that he's giving her a hard time. And then 5 minutes later, I'll see Mary in the break room having a cup of coffee or taking a drink of water, and I'll say to Mary, hey, whatever happened with Mr. Jones? And she'll say something like, he's fine. And I'll say, oh, how did you get him off the phone? And she'll say something like, I didn't, he's been on hold for the past 5 minutes. And Mary's punishing Mr. Jones by saying to him something like, please hold, and then keeping him on hold for 5 minutes rather than being upfront with her communication and using, for example, a redirect with assumptions, which would be something such as, Mr. Jones, when you're ready to speak to me as the professional that I am, I'll be ready to continue this conversation. Maybe an empowering statement such as, are you ready now, or would you need a few minutes to regain your composure? There are many different types of phrases, of course, that we can use with difficult people, depending on the situation, but a spotlight question is used with passive-aggressive people. So remember, passive-aggressive people are those who punish you, but they're just not upfront about it, Like, at a meeting, for example, a lot of us deal with snipers. A sniper is the type of person who makes pot shots at you, masked in humor, in a public forum. So you might be at a meeting or something and you present a great idea, and a sniper would do one of these. Not really saying what they did or did not like about your idea, but making some underhanded comment. Or a sniper might be somebody who would say something to you like, let's say you got a new pair of jeans, you're walking on the hallway at work, they're kind of your friend, they're with all their friends in the hallway, and so as you pass, they say something to you such as, hey, O'Connor, those are some great jeans. Where are you walking in those? Back to 1987? That's something a sniper would say, something that's an insult masked in humor. And many times, we struggle dealing with passive-aggressive communication. Remember this principle. People who engage in passive-aggressive communication do not like being forced to be upfront with their communication. And I have to remember what gets rewarded gets repeated. If we allow passive-aggressive communicators to get away with their passive-aggressive communication, that behavior gets repeated. There is not a communication principle, however, that says what gets punished doesn't get repeated. You know what I mean? So often what we want to do is punish somebody who's engaging in unenlightened or aggressive or passive-aggressive communication, but that has never been proven to be effective. The best I can do is take away rewards and, using a spotlight question maybe, force you to be more upfront with your communication. Reveal your true intention behind your words. So a spotlight question, remember, we use them with passive-aggressive communicators when they communicate in a passive-aggressive manner with us, and we use them with the intention of uncovering their true message that they're trying to deliver. And of course, forcing them to do that tends to make them go away, because I can't retrain you how to behave, but I can retrain you how to treat me. That's my job. Spotlight questions always begin with the same lead-in line. Remember, lead-in lines can sometimes be just the beginning of the sentence. And when you have the beginning of the sentence that you can easily say because you practiced it, it's much easier to complete that sentence. It's easier to get the words out when you have a few words at the beginning that you have practiced that are easy and fluid. The beginning of a spotlight question is always the same. Are you trying to? So repeat that after me. Are you trying to? Say that again. Are you trying to? One more time. Are you trying to? So for example, if somebody says something insulting about your clothes, if you're walking in the hallway and they say, hey, you know, that's a nice sweater. Do they also make that for men? I might say to you, are you trying to say you don't like my sweater? If I'm in a meeting and somebody makes a grunt or a groan while I'm giving a presentation, you know, gives one of these, I might stop and say, Charlie, are you trying to say you didn't like my idea? Or I might, if depending on what the situation is, if they're being really aggressive, if they're starting to cross the line into aggressive, I might want to stop and say, Charlie, are you trying to disrupt this meeting? And remember, the head tilts forward as you use a spotlight question. So remember, when somebody's engaging in passive-aggressive communication, one technique, and there are many techniques, we talk about them during these lessons, one technique is to practice using a spotlight question. A spotlight question begins with, are you trying to, with the head tilt forward. Now, of course, many times when you ask an aggressive communicator or a passive-aggressive communicator, are you trying to insult me? Are you trying to say you didn't like my idea? What might their response be? You know, they might say, yes, I am! So, of course, that's why we want to have more communication strategies up our sleeve. You know, if I were to say to somebody during a meeting, are you trying to disrupt this meeting? And they were to say, yeah. Or if I were to say, are you trying to say you don't like my idea? And they're saying, obviously. I want to have some of my magic phrases ready, and I might say to them something like, well, interesting, Charlie, tell me, why would you say that? Why would you think that? And get them to start answering your questions. Remember, the person who asks the majority of questions in any relationship is the one with the perceived power in that relationship. So when you're stuck, ask questions. And a spotlight question is a wonderful question to have in your communication arsenal.
The spotlight question reveals intention.
The next dealing with difficult people strategy I'd like to teach you today is the stonewall. I love the stonewall.
Stonewall. Stonewall.
No, you don't answer at all.
Stonewall.
Because speaking of power in relationships regarding questions and who asks the most questions, that is a law of relationships, that the person who asks the most questions in any relationship is the one with the perceived power in that relationship. You know, for example, with my grandmother, she was the one who asked the questions in that relationship. You know, of course, I asked a bunch of questions that kids ask, but when somebody's asking a question and they're expecting an answer, that person is the one with perceived power in the relationship. So many people, when they feel as though they are without power in their lives, they are impotent in some form, they start going around asking questions that are really none of their business. These are called challenge questions. Like, let's say that you are called into a meeting by your boss. Let's say that my boss's name is Susan. So Susan asks me to have a meeting with her in her office. So I go into her office for 10 minutes, I come back to my desk, and the next thing I know, you've seen this, I have somebody coming around my cubicle corner and doing one of these. Hey Dan, I saw that you were in a meeting with Susan. What was that all about? You know what I'm talking about? Remember, the person who's asking you questions in the office, like that, questions such as those, what's going on with that person and that person? How much do you get paid? What were you and so talking about? That person is called the challenger. And those questions that they're asking you are called challenge questions. Remember, don't answer them. Don't answer them with a smart response. Don't answer them with an aggressive response. Don't answer them. Because what you want to do is train the challenger that they are not going to get their rewards with you, that they're not going to get their questions answered with you. And of course, I want to remain true to my communication principles. And I don't want to all of a sudden start engaging in difficult behavior and show you that I can be a nastier communicator than you can. I want to remain true to who I am. I want to be honorable. I want to be respectful. I want to, cast light into the darkness and all of that. But I don't want to answer your questions. So the stonewall is a 3-step process. Step number 1, I would answer the challenge question with a simple magic phrase such as, interesting, why would you ask me that? And remember, when you ask a challenger, why would you ask me that? The number one response 99% of the time that you are going to get is, I'm just curious. Because remember, not all questions are challenge questions. If my boss says to me, Dan, I noticed that you were 20 minutes late today, what happened? And I were to say to them, interesting, why would you ask that? That's very different. I'm talking just about challengers who are asking challenge questions. When I'm asked a challenge question and I respond with, interesting, why would you ask me that? The number one response is going to be, I'm just curious. So now that brings me to step number 2. Step number 2 is to ask a closed-ended question. Remember, a closed-ended question is always designed to shut down the lines of communication. And they begin with things such as, are you, is it, things like that. So I'm going to ask you 9 times out of 10, are you always this, blah, blah, blah. So they're going to answer with something such as, I'm just curious, I'm just inquisitive. Then your response is, are you always this curious? Or, are you always this inquisitive? So reviewing now, step number 1, they say, hey, what were you in the meeting with Susan about? And I'll say, interesting, why would you ask? I'm just curious. Are you always this curious? Now they are going to then respond, because I just asked you a closed-ended question, they're going to respond with either yes or no, because that's the only response you can give 9 times out of 10 when someone asks you a closed-ended question, and especially when you're dealing with a challenger. They're not going to be a savvy, polished, enlightened communicator as you are. So they're not going to be able to respond quickly on their feet with things other than the expected response when somebody's coming from that place. So they'll say to you, when you say to them, are you always this curious? They'll say to you either something such as, yeah, or no, or sometimes they're going to give you a one-word answer. Step number 3, give them the 3-second look. We already talked about the 3-second look. It means don't say anything. They have now asked you one question that you did not answer. You have asked them 2 questions, and they answered both of them. Stop there and let them find more words to start saying. What they're going to do is loop back to the beginning and say something such as, well, what were you talking about? And then remember, implement the broken record. Broken record is such a great tool that is so underused. Ask them again. Interesting, why would you ask? And watch, when you say that the second time, they'll be like, what? I'm just curious. And you'll say, are you always this curious? And they'll say, yeah, so what were you talking about? And then you can start at the beginning again. Remember, interesting, why would you ask me that? And the third time generally that you repeat something using the broken record, remember that the person listening to you, of course, they know that you're using the broken record, but it's so difficult when you are dealing with somebody who's obviously a polished communicator as you are and you're practicing these things. When somebody's giving you a strategy like that, it sends a signal. The person to whom you are speaking is going to know, oh, you're one of those. I'm not going to be able to break you down like I can most people. And so when you say to somebody for the 3rd time, interesting, why would you ask that? Of course they might say to you or think something such as, interesting, and that's fine, because what they're going to do is realize, I can't break you, and they will go along their way. And that is the stonewall strategy. 3 steps. Number 1, ask a magic question such as, why would you ask me that? Step number 2, ask them, are you always this curious? Are you always this inquisitive? So ask a closed-ended question. And then step 3, give the 3-second look, and if needed, broken record, start at the beginning. Watch how much fun you'll have using that rather than answering challenge questions. You're going to teach the challenger that they do not get their rewards with you.
Stone
Stone, 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 stone wall.
No, you don't answer at all.
Stone wall.
And having said all of that, I'd like to talk about our communication principle of the week, which is give yourself the gift of communicational freedom.
Communication principle of the week.
What that really means is, when people behave in a way that we don't like with us, when we don't like somebody's behavior, the way they're communicating with us, many times we tend to think things like, they can't talk to me that way. Or we see somebody that's not even communicating with us, but they're doing something and we're thinking to ourselves, you can't do that. She can't do that. And a lot of us, especially if you're one of the personality types that really likes structure and rules, you like that type of stuff, you tend to really get bent out of shape when you see other people breaking rules. And we tend to think, you can't do that. You can't do that. The principle of the week is, remember, give yourself the gift of communicational freedom. And the way you do that is by giving it to others. And so the next time you find yourself thinking or saying, even worse, something such as, you can't talk to me that way, or you can't do that, you can't behave that way, she can't do that, remember this principle is really about, yes, they can. Yes, they can. There they are doing it. There they are saying it. It's obvious that yes, they can. And not only can they in the physical sense, like those words, yes, they can fly out of their mouth, but yes, they can in the sense that we can all communicate however we see fit. Really, we can. We reap what we sow. However I see fit. Coming from a place of, I've thought this through. I've done a cost-benefit analysis. I've done my personal compass. I know who I am. I know why I'm here. I know what I want. I know how to get it. I'm not just a rude communicator. I am a polished, educated, savvy, confident communicator, and I am making a decision to communicate in the way I see fit, then yes, I can communicate that way. That's my right. But to really feel confident in my communication and feel as though I have the right to communicate however I see fit in any situation, to feel that confidence, which then is projected in your communication, the only way to feel it is if you remember that that's a truth. And if it's a truth for you, it's a truth for everybody. A truth is a truth is a truth. If it's true for me, it's true for everyone. So therefore, an easy way to give yourself permission, and a lot of us really need permission to communicate in the way that we'd like to communicate. To give yourself that permission, start by giving it to others and recognize that you can communicate however you choose to. And it's okay. It really is okay. It is okay that you just said what you said to me. It is okay that you just did whatever it is that you just did. It's okay. It's fine. You are supposed to do that, and you can do that. Because that means that now I can communicate however I choose. I can do whatever I see fit. I can say whatever I choose. I can do what's best for me and feel as though I really have the permission that I need to do that for myself because I've already given it to you. It is true. What I give to my brother, I give to myself. What I give to others, I'm giving to myself. And you will find that truth to be so liberating when you truly start applying it to the difficult people in your life. Think about one person right now. Think about that one person who frequently pops up into your mind when you think, oh, they're outrageous, their behavior. They should not be talking that way. They should not be behaving that way. They should not be doing that. Think about that person. Put them in your mind. And now give them the freedom. Right now, think to yourself, I allow you to communicate the way you communicate. I allow you to behave the way you are behaving. It is okay. You can communicate that way. You can do and say whatever you see fit. Because that means, so can I. And that is the principle behind give yourself the gift of communication freedom. We give it first to others, and that is how we receive it, and that will be projected in every word you say. Because truly, every word that you speak is a testament to who you believe you are. Do you believe you're free, or do you believe that you still have some chains on you? Releasing the chains off of others releases the chains that you have already put on yourself.
Communication principle of the week.
So I hope that you enjoyed our danger phrases for the week, our power phrases for the week, our dealing with difficult people tactics for the week, our body language tactics of the week. Remember to print out your flashcards now and download the audio that goes with this, along with the other course materials, the summaries, and the workbook. And I'll see you here next week. Thanks, everybody.